And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Flight Past. My name's Simon and I will be your host today. This is Flight Past is a stream podcast where we use Flight Simulator, in this case Flight Simulator 2024 by Microsoft, to look at history from the air. And today we are doing what I like to call a live reconnaissance, on where we will be looking at the assault on the Merville Battery. Now, if you can remember, in the RECON 7, we looked at Lt Col Terence Otway, who was the commander of the 9th Battalion of the 3rd Parachute Brigade, and he had just parachuted in to Normandy, landing to the southeast of the Merville Battery. And he was had got himself together, and we left him. He had just reached the RV point, and the time is 2:30 in the morning. Now, I just want to start off this one. I thought I'd start off from where I actually plan it. I thought, because this is initially recorded on Twitch, then I should try to make it a bit more about the actual simulator. You'll find that this is has been recorded as well separately on YouTube, which will be a bit more history focused. So this will be a bit more free flight. So let's zoom into where we're talking about, and it's just here to the north east of Caen, across the River Orme, and we this, where my cursor is right now, is where the battery is. So let's just go straight there, and we'll fly from that point. And we'll do a bit of a reconnaissance around the area just to get familiar with it again. Put the gyroscope on. So we are heading north here. Down below us there on the left-hand side of the aircraft, we can see the River Orne and the canal. Let's just fly over here. This beach below us, right below us now, is known as Franceville Plage. And just off the nose now is Sword Beach, where the British will be landing, and around about 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. You can see now quite clearly the on the left is the river, and on the right is the canal. The River Orne on the left and the Caen Canal on the right. And just before the kink is where the bridges are, the Pegasus Bridge and Horsa Bridge. So the area we're concerned with at the moment is to the east here on the left. And this area we're talking about is begins with drop zone Victor. Just in front of us now, you can see this line of trees which moves this way. Dark patch here. This is the Merville Ridge, which will become important later. We've got 7th Parachute Battalion's drop zone ahead of us, or on the nose now. But we're more concerned with 9th Parachute Battalion, and their drop zone was to the northwest of the village of Merville, which were essentially these pale fields that you see off the nose just now. And the battery, the target, is just down here on the left. So let me find some. So just a brief recap then. The rendezvous parties and the battery reconnaissance parties have flown in early before the battalion drops, and they push on to set up the RV, set up the drop zones, and to recce the battery, which we can see down here now on our left. And below us here is the village of Merville, and you can see now the out the window to the left here the drop zone, these large patches of light coloured fields, as shows where the drop zone was. Let's just move around now. So Lieutenant Colonel Otway has he drops in with the battalion onto these drop zones at around about 10 minutes to 1, and the drops have not gone to plan. The battalion is dispersed. And it takes Lieutenant Otway, Colonel Otway, it takes him something in the region of an hour and a half to reach the RV point. Let's just have a look now then. So here we go. This is the drop zone we just flown over, and we talked about this in the previous stream. And the RV point, which we try to recall, was this area here, this sort of crossroads area. It was known as Calvary Cross. This is where, when you were down here on the drop zone, you can't see really, but you can see there's a slight slope to this land, and if you were in the dark, you can see there's a slight rise there on the horizon, and the village on the left is the Gonville Sumer village, and so this is a prominent feature or prominent place where if you're scattered, then this is all roads kind of lead to this point. We have see if I can bring up a picture of bear with me a second. Sorry about that, postman. Just to prove that it's live and to really show my age, it was a pair of slippers. Yes, moccasins, of course. So this is this is the rendezvous point. This is where Major Alan Parry gets to and begins to use his signal to guide in the paratroopers from the drop zone. I was just going to get a photograph here or an aerial map. Let me just find this. So this is, by the way, this is a picture of the battery, and it shows the bomb damage that was done when we spoke about the RAF bomber targeting the battery at 12:30. This is quite a lot of the damage that was done at the time. It's a little bit so the main features you can see there, that sort of hexagonal thing, means that it was over this side. So this, if I can get this right, you'd actually be looking. It's something like, I believe, that. If I just lay it over now, it would be something like that. So you can sort of see the orientation, and you can see the bombing direction that they were doing. I can see by the lines of bombs, there were obviously bombing runs in this direction, which is almost a sort of a north east to southwest, and then there was other directions. Looks like up here there was one which was more from I suppose in a west-east direction. But what it does show you is that there was a lot of bombs that were falling off target, and one of the when we were talking about Major George Smith and his battery reconnaissance, he was, I believe, on the drop zone over here, and a bombing raid came in, and he mentions that they must have bombed down this way, or possibly across this way, because he says that the bombs were falling between him which was in this field here, and the battery. When Lieutenant Colonel Otway arrives here, he meets up with Major Eddie Charlton, and Major Charlton informs Lieutenant Colonel Otway of the state of play on the drop, and that a lot of the battalion has been dispersed, and there's different reports of how many men have actually got here. This is 2:30, by the way, so you're talking, at least an hour and a half since the drop came in, and there's reports that there's only like 50 men currently have gathered at this rendezvous point. Lieutenant Colonel Otway decides that he's going to wait approximately a quarter of an hour. He says that he had some contingencies in his planning, so he was going to wait until 2:45 before he moved off. And when he does, it's not clear how many men he has. It's believed it could be anywhere between 50 and 150. And he moves off towards what's it called, the base, to attack the battery, which I believe is this area here, and this is called Firm Base. And if I bring up my picture again, I've done a map. So from here to there, you can see the map is now being superimposed. And you've got the rendezvous point down here, and this is the Firm Base. So Major George Smith comes back, and he meets Terence Otway at the Firm Base, and he informs Lieutenant Colonel that he's scouted the battery, and there's nothing untoward that they don't know about, and that it's good to go. But Terence Otway has, as you say, he's been informed by his Major Eddie Charlton that the men haven't turned up, and also that the five gliders that were carrying the heavy equipment are missing. Now, these gliders contain jeeps, anti-tank guns, or an anti-tank gun. They had Bangalore torpedoes for blowing up the barbed wire, ammunition, and all that sort of stuff. So they had gone missing. They had actually hit a pocket, an air pocket or a turbulence over the channel, and they had come away from their tow rope and had gone down in the sea and were never seen again. Terence Otway, by the way, when he moves up from the RV point, reports that there is bomb damage along this area here, so the RAF has missed the target and bombed the area. You can probably still make out, it's likely some of these dark patches you see in some of the fields here are old bomb craters that have been filled in. So he reports that this road was potted which made moving up a bit difficult, but he makes it to this firm base here. Okay, let's move on now to the actual timeline for the assault. In this area that there is I think we just do a bit more flying whilst I talk. Try to keep it a bit more flight simulatory. So whilst he's at this firm base, they come under attack or some fire from machine gun positions. They describe them as being on their flanks, and he sends off one of the sergeants. Can't remember his name right off the bat. He's one of them is the sergeant who is he's going to be doing the outflanking maneuver. Let me find his name. Yeah, so his name was Sergeant Knight, and what his role was to lead a diversionary attack into the main gate of the battery, which was on the north side. And they were taking these fire from a machine gun post to the north. So Sergeant Knight was ordered to move up to take out the machine guns to the north. And then there was some other machine guns down to the south as well that they were ordered to take out. Sergeant, so this is when Otway begins to move up his men to the assault position, and we get to the assault time, which is about 4 o'clock. So he's moving up from the firm base up towards the battery. Sergeant Knight has moved this way, and so he's moved from the firm base towards a machine gun position in this area here, and then there's possible machine gun down here in this area. Sergeant Knight moves around to a position around about here, which is where the main gate was to the battery, whilst Major Alan Parry, who was the RV party officer, is given control of Company C, which would have been controlled by Major Dyer, but he was absent at that point, so Alan Parry takes over. And because they've not got enough men, he decides that the original plan, which was to attack with 4 companies, size units, would now be done with the remnants, which was a sort of a composite force of A Company and C Company. Again, it's difficult to know how many men we're talking about. It could be anything from 50 to 100, depending on which accounts you read. And of course, all the time, more and more troops are coming into the RV and then moving up to the firm base. So the situation is quite fluid in terms of numbers. So Parry moves up, and they're going to have 2 assaults into the battery. Now, these were minefields with an outer fence, almost like a cattle fence, and this was the side that the Major Parry had rec'd, and this would be where the 2 assaults would take place on this side of this road, and Sergeant Knight will come from this way. So he gets into the position for the attack, and it comes to 4:30, and this is when Otway decides to pause, because he's waiting now for the gliders to arrive. And as I mentioned on my YouTube part of this, the gliders that are going to do a codename onto this position, it beggars belief, really, how they even thought that this would be possible. And I'll show you why right now, and I'm going to cut my engine. So we've now effectively become a glider, and so at 4:30 in the morning, he's waiting for these gliders, and he says that he can see one of them circling above, and this glider is trying to locate the battery, but because none of their equipment has arrived, this glider can't spot this battery. Basically, Otway wanted to fire a flare at this point to show the glider where they were. So the glider's circling around trying to find this battery, can't spot it, gets hit. There's reports that 2 of the gliders get hit. One of them crashes to the south here, and the other one is described as crashing about 100 meters to the southeast in an orchard, which is marked on that little map at the bottom of your screen. And so the glider came in, got hit, and was attempting to crash here. Well, let's say attempting to land, which it does. And I think there's an orchard about here, and the glider comes in and lands in about this position. Which was we're a little bit close. We've almost landed on the RV here, but you get the point. So, there we go. We're back up. So, obviously, then there is a benefit to this crash in the sense that it does distract the Germans. There's the Otway remembers saying he could hear the people in the Glinder getting involved in a firefight with the Germans that were in the village of Gonville. So let me just change this time. So we're now talking 4:30 in the morning, and this is the designated time for the attack to go in. He orders Major Parry and to blow his whistle, and this is the signal then for the two Bangalore torpedoes to be detonated. This blows a hole in 2 gaps in the wire, and then men actually threw themselves down and acted almost as human mattresses for the others to run across. He recalls that they're running in, there's booby traps flying off, everything was kicking off. And Sergeant Knight, who we remember is attacking from this direction here towards the battery, he's firing off everything he can. He's only got about 5 men, but they're dispersing, moving, throwing grenades, firing off everything they possibly could to distract the Germans just before the Bangalore torpedoes were fired, and to make it sound like there were more of them on that side than there actually was. Otway describes there's a hand-to-hand fighting. The 2 squads run in and fan out across the battery, and found that they had to go into these casements through the front because the back had these steel doors, and he describes at this point that it starts to get light. And he can start making out details. But also the Germans could start seeing them and their silhouettes on the ground. So he remembers having to keep moving. He says that then eventually Lieutenant Mike Dowling comes up to him and reports that the battery's been taken. He questions him to say, is he sure that the guns have been destroyed? At which point he replies the thing that no commander wants to hear. He just says, I think so. So he tells him to get back in into the battery to find out whether the guns have actually been destroyed, which he does. Him and his Batman move back into the battery, but are killed by a mortar. And so it turns out, and they're killed. So it turns out that the German officer in charge of the battery, who had just taken over a few months before, and his name was, checking my notes, Oberlieutenant Raymond Steiner. He wasn't at the battery at the time, but was stationed in Franceville Plage, which is this village here. And he actually starts mortaring his own battery. And he's a member of the 716th Infantry Division. They were the 1st Battery Artillery Regiment 1716. He is believed to have under his command about 50 engineers and 80 artillerymen. So, like we say, Lieutenant Dowling is killed, and this means that he has to go in and check for himself. Eventually, he says he moves in. The Germans realise that they're dealing with paratroopers. He says, Otway says, just because they heard that they were parachuters, they surrendered. They killed quite a lot, but they did take 23 prisoners. With the surrendering, the fighting dies down. Otway moves into the battery and wanders around the area. Moves in to inspect the guns. So remember, the Allies were expecting there to be 4 150mm guns in the position, and these they were worried about these because 150mm guns probably had a range of about 8 miles, so it meant that the majority of Sword Beach would be under the battery's range. But it turns out that the guns are a Czech gun, almost like a howitzer, that were 100, I think it's 100mm caliber, and they had a range which was more or less a maximum 4 miles, and what actually they were doing was covering the approaches to Istraham, the canal, the port, and the beach here at Franceville. it doesn't take away the bravery of these guys. That the intelligence reports were in air. And what do we talk about? So I just want to say about the gliders, by the way. They had about 50 men on board who were volunteers. They knew, or Otway knew, that this was almost a suicide mission. It's amazing, really, to think anyone would want to do this. And made sure that most of the men on board were unmarried. So one of the whole of D-Day, I always find that one element, these volunteers who wanted to land a glider on top of this, is just it's just amazing, really. I don't know what they were thinking. And it turns out, I'm not even sure it would have made much difference anyway. So, I mean, it is crazy. Okay, so what we get to the time and the moment. Let me just just try and find the time. So it's about 5:30 now. Let me just change this. Otway says he's satisfied that the guns have been neutralized. It turns out they hadn't quite been neutralized. They'd been damaged, or they've been made. They basically didn't have the equipment to destroy the guns. They put some gammon bombs down them, but the quality of the steel of the gun meant that it hadn't really damaged the guns. And Oberlieutenant Steiner reports later that they could get the guns back up and running again. It's Major Parry goes around and checks it as well. They report basically back to Otway that they have been neutralized. And with 5:30 coming up, it was deemed that they had to withdraw away from the battery. The naval liaison party had not arrived, so they were going to have a guy who could liaise with HMS Arethusa. He hadn't arrived, so they tried to use yellow smoke candles, releasing them off in intervals, which would they hoped could either be seen by HMS Arethusa or possibly by spotter aircraft in the air, that they could then signal back down the line. He didn't believe that whether this would be a success or not, so they had to leave. It turns out that HMS Arethusa doesn't open fire, which was it's an interesting decision by HMS Arethusa, because they are ordered to fire if they haven't received a signal that the battery has been neutralized. So they don't really get this thing, but the captain of the Arethusa later confirms that that he was told only to fire on the battery if it was still active. So there's a little bit of confusion about what was or what wasn't said at the time. But luckily, it turns out that the guns therefore had in some sense been neutralized, so the 9th Battalion had completed some part of their mission. And what's important to remember is, one, the guns weren't affecting Sword Beach, or didn't later. And the ones which were firing, I think they didn't get them all back together, but it took a few hours for Steiner to get the guns going again, and they were basically only affecting the port area. So Otway decides that he's gonna he pulls out. He gets the prisoners that he's got to guide the remnants of his battalion through the minefield, and they move back to this place called what they call the Calvary Cross. Now, one of the secondary missions objectives of Lieutenant Colonel Otway was a naval radar station in a place called Sullen. I think it's called Salonels. He decides, which is, I believe, in this area here, it might be this village below me. Let me just have a look. Yeah, it's this little village here on the bend of the River Orme. And because he hasn't got enough troops, he's also got injured. He decides that this objective he would abandon. His main mission after the assault on the Merville Battery was to occupy some high ground, inverted commas, at a place called La Plaine, which was near Amfril on the Breville Ridge, which is this village and series of villages below us now. He says that as he's approaching the Le Plan, let me just pause here because let's get a look at the ground here. He says that in the chateau here in Hauga is his place. There is a company of Germans. They're Ost Battalion and Russians, but there's a number of them, and he's trying to get to this village here of Le Planor in Amfreville. So he's forced, when he was coming from the battery, so he's pulled back to the RV. He's had to leave a number of wounded at the battery. He's pulled back to the rendezvous point, and now he's moving down. He was going to go to Salonel here, but he decides not to and moves in this direction to Le Plan. He's meeting stiff resistance, increasing stiff resistance, and eventually he's forced to come back to this chateau. It's Chateau de Amfreville, and this here is the ridge at Breville. So it's the imperative is to protect the bridgehead. This is the bridges here. We've got Pegasus and Horsa. We have Ranville here. This is drop zone N, and this ridge. And when you're down on the ground, you can see that high ground is covering this this drop zone. So it was important that this village here and the heights all the way along here were controlled, so that the Germans couldn't look down on the drop zone and the bridgehead. As I said, there's many other little stories involved in this, but it's fascinating to see the distances, the shape of the battlefield. We get many stories. We get the story that Otway had to leave wounded behind, and they were being looked after by a German medical officer and orderlies, and then the Padre John Gwinnett commandeers a truck, paints a red cross on the front of it, and begins to move the injured to the parachute field ambulance position, which was at a place called Le Mesille. The injured, by the way, included Major Parry, included Captain Hal Hudson, and Lieutenant Jefferson. As I say, Rudolf Steiner, the Oberlieutenant, said that when he returned to the battery, when Otway's troops had left, 3 out of the 4 guns had been put out of action, and he says they were unable to fire. But on the rest of the day, 2 of them were put back into action and were firing on Ouistreham, the Orne estuary and the canal. Otway wrote a history of the British Airborne Forces, and he mentions in that he believes he destroyed 2 out of the 4 guns as well. But more importantly, he believed the other 2 were made useless, and he says for 48 hours. Well, I mean, it's debatable. It is sad that the reconnaissance, the resistance reports were incorrect on the guns in this position, because if they knew they were only these howitzers here, then maybe they wouldn't have even bothered attempting to attack this place. As I say, let's do this in the aircraft. Otway has moved, was going to Le Plan, which is below us here, and he, as I said, he had faced quite a lot of resistance. So he moves back to the chateau, and he's waiting there for the 1st Special Service Brigade to arrive. They were commandos. They arrived at Sword Beach here in the morning, landing at around about 8 o'clock, and their mission was to link up with John Howard's men and 7th Battalion Parachute Regiment at the bridges. The French contingent of the commandos moved into Ouistreham from the east here, and the Lord Lovat's commanders pushed up the road, and they came via the village of Saint-Auban-d'Arkenay, which is this village just here on the nose now. They, if you remember our talk about Howard's D Company and the attack on Pegasus Bridge, they came down this road here into Le Port and joined up with Howard's men. Off the top of my head, it was something like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So this is Le Port here on our left here, and they came across the bridges here, and they then pushed on over Pegasus Bridge, over Horsa Bridge, and then they pushed up onto the Breville Ridge, and they meet up with Otway at around about 3:30. The commandos were aggressive. They were told to push on. They would go around places, so they would leave some positions if they had to. They would just push on through. They were aggressively trying to get up here and to this ridge. And so this is where our story on D-Day for Otway will end. And this here is where they eventually meet up. The commandos will push along this road, and they will force out the Germans from these positions during the course of the rest of the day and into the 7th of June. So I'd like to thank you for watching this, and I hope you will subscribe, like, do all those other things that you're supposed to do. This is concluded the section of Flight Pass on Operation Tonga. I will be doing another series which will be dealing with the Normandy campaign in as a whole, which will go from D-Day +1 to D-Day plus 65. But my intentions going forward from here will be to continue looking at D-Day itself and all the different sections. So in the next part of this podcast, streamcast, whatever you may, we'll be looking at the US airborne landings. So this is the 2 divisions of the 82nd and the 101st, and they'll be dropping here on the Yucatan Peninsula. And then the rest of the series will be moving along the beaches and talking about that. So I'd like to thank you for watching this series on Operation Tonga, and I'll see you in the next episode.